welcome into the CHGO White Sox post-game show, coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Ecknerwall23 as our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. We're being produced today by Sarah.
What did I say?
You said
What
a
did I
victory,
say?
a White
A
Sox
victory.
win. And your positivity paid off.
There we go.
The White Sox win 4-0 because Sarah said so. Her and Stone Cold related. Did you know that?
Wow, I didn't know that. And you said 5-0. You were close too.
Well, I also gave out two scores, to be fair. So I think I said 2-1, and then I threw out 5-0.
I'm Mr. Negativity. I said they're going to lose and get shut out.
So, in Herb's face.
But they did the shutting out of the other team. Wow.
Sox win 4-0 in Game 2. They lost the first half of the doubleheader 6-3. We already talked about Game 1 in a pre/post-game show, so if you do want to get our full thoughts on that, you can go check that out. We'll talk probably with Vinny about the full day at Guaranteed Rate Field. Vinne Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer, will be joining us later from Guaranteed Rate Field after he chats with the dugout. But be like Kevin M, like the video, even though it hasn't even started. We're started now. Hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. I see Jared in the chat as well. Become a diehard like Jared, and if you are a diehard, you get a discount to the upcoming events we have. We have 3 takeovers, so if you haven't bought tickets yet to the Toronto one, and maybe you can't make it on Memorial Day, the 27th at 1:10, we have 2 more for you, one in June on the 24th against the Dodgers, and one in August when the Sox take on the Cubs. So it should be a blast. Become a diehard today, get 20% off to the events, and come hang out with Herb, Sarah, myself, Vinny, but Vinny will be working. And others and more.
Yeah, and
So,
some of
should
the
be fun.
diehard members who've already told me that they're attending. They've bought tickets already. So, yeah, get to meet your fellow diehards or people who just love the White Sox.
Check out allchgo.com for that. You know what I love, Herb? Erick Fedde. Erick Fedde. We hyped it up on Monday's off-day show after the rain out. We hyped it up in our pregame show. We said, revenge, 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 revenge. The pregame show with John Triffin and even Chuck Garfien and Ozzie Guillen, they said, revenge, 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 revenge. And I threw out the Chris Sale and Gio Gonzalez revenge starts, right?
Yep.
They weren't really revenge starts. They weren't that good. Erick Fedde came out and dominated against his old team. 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, no walks, 6 Ks, a scoreless outing for Erick Fedde. He threw 99 pitches. Jordan Leasure came in the 8th to hold the game, and then Michael Kopech wasn't pretty.
A little wild.
And I don't even think it counts for a save.
Nope.
But at least locked up the game. Locked up, very ugly, maybe using a lock from the 1800s that somehow still works, but got it done. Sox win 4-0. Let's talk about our main man, Fettuccini. What impressed you the most?
The most impressive thing, of course, he had a bunch of strikeouts, 6 strikeouts today. But today, I think the 4th inning, he had 1 out, and then you see Rafael Ortega misjudge a ball because he loses it in the lights, and it's been a common theme. You saw Tommy Pham lose one in the lights also, but he happened to catch that one. But it was credited as a double. So you got 1 out, guy at second with some people coming up that might do some damage. Joey Meneses, who had a 4-for-4 game in the first game. White Sox hadn't got him out until Erick Fedde struck him out in the first inning of the second game, and then in that 4th inning, struck out Joey Meneses, and then got Garcia Jr. to pop out. That is what I'm talking about. Picking your teammates up, even though they made an error or a mistake, pitching over those mistakes. Because we know with this White Sox team, there are going to be a bunch of errors. There are going to be a bunch of missteps. You need your pitchers to sometimes step up for the defenders out there, and the same thing for the pitchers or for the hitters. Like, your pitcher's sometimes not going to have A+ stuff. And so you need to supplement that with some of the bats that the White Sox were getting. But Fedde, man, if you would have asked me, would you have gotten this performance from Erick Fedde after 9 starts? I'm like, hell no. This guy is a career well, not really a journeyman because he's only been on 1 major league team, but he's a career.
I mean, he went on a journey after that 1 major league team.
He did, but even though the Korean stats look great, low 2 ERA,
he won an award.
Cy Young of Korea, I was like, little jaundice on that. I'm like, you stuck out a bunch of players who are pretty much AA, AAA players. Good job. No, sir. This man is a pitcher. Like, he knows how to pitch. And the stats might not look impressive. The 100-mile-per-hour fastballs are not there, but he knows how to pitch, and he knows how to get outs. Only 99 pitches through 7 innings. Tell me other times that this has happened with the White Sox of recent vintage. It hasn't, because the man knows how to use his pitches and knows how to have short innings. Like in that 5th inning, I think he only had 8 pitches. Just ridiculous.
Right. Is that a rhetorical question? Do you actually want me to tell you
Go
the
ahead.
starts? I don't have that.
Okay.
No. Prep me for that. I could run a stat head search of games where the White Sox starter went 7 innings pitched with less than 99 pitches thrown.
I was asking you,
give me a heads up.
Should they bring out him in the 8th inning? That's how strong he was.
I said, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I posted on CHGO _White Sox, would you let him go past his career high if he still has a complete game shutout? I'd also tweeted out, hey, he's likely going in, and this was around the 4th inning, 2-pager Grifol, and said, I'm throwing 800 pitches tonight. I'm getting my first complete game shutout. I thought that he was going to just go for it. Yeah. And I mean, his career high before this was in 2018, 115 before. He's gone past 100 many times in his Nationals career. I thought that, why not? I mean, he got a 3-0 lead, and then it was a 4-0 lead because of Andrew Vaughn. Thank you very much. I kind of trusted him. There was no one that really scared me a ton. Maybe CJ Abrams, but once you get past him, you're past him. Joey Meneses was pretty dangerous in game 1, going 4 for 4, but Fedde handled him fairly easy. I think there was 2 Ks. I don't know if he saw him for a 3rd time. So I was all for Fedde going out there, and he was efficient for most of the part. In the 1st inning, 11 pitches, 2nd inning, 16 pitches, 3rd inning, 17 pitches, 4th inning, 17 pitches, and that's probably the killer there. Third inning, 4th inning with 17 pitches, and the 6th inning with 20. But in the 5th and 7th, 8 and 10. So, I mean, he was efficient, and I thought it was worth it because it really never felt like he was afraid. It never felt like he was worried about, maybe a runner on second. He knows if a lefty's up, I'm throwing my splitter. If a righty's up, I'm using my sweeper. We saw more of what we talked about on Monday. 36% sinker tonight, 35% cutter, 18% splitter, 10% sweeper. The big change in his repertoire from 2022 and 2024 is that sweeper. Yep. But, I mean, even though it has been revamped, he still doesn't have to rely on it. Nope. He still doesn't have to go to it, 30% of the time. He can rely on the splitter, and he is truly a starting pitcher. What you think of when you think of 2006 MLB The Show, right? In your 4th starter on the Yankees or whatever, right? That's what you expect from a David Wells, is to locate your pitches and maybe not get a ton of whiffs. 6 whiffs tonight from Erick Fedde, but 24% called strike whiff rate, a little under major league average, but he's still getting a ton of called strikes. He's still getting a ton of foul offs. He's not allowing a ton of hard hit.
No.
I'm excited about Erick Fedde. He's been very good, and that's why, again, I think that we might not think of him as a great value, and yes, the ERA is probably not going to stick at 260, but I think there's a real chance that Fedde gets a little bit of some bidding on him because he does have such an easy buy-in for most major league teams to, participate in his acquiring his services.
Yeah, and I kind of poo-pooed and threw some cold water on your revenge talk yesterday, and I was like, yeah, he's a professional. He doesn't care. He pitched poorly with them. He probably understands. But no, that man had a thing. I think if we talked to Vinny after the game, I'm sure Erick Fedde would be like, yeah, there was some extra motivation there. Yeah. Fuck those dudes.
But also, I mean, we hear Michael Jordan still caring about things that happen in high school. It's like, man, you got 6 rings. Leave it alone. You know what?
Never satisfied.
It was probably, guy's son made it over you. And that's why it happened. And then, the guy got fired because he was a shitty basketball coach. And then, hey, we got Jordan? That's, didn't make the team. Let's put him on there.
And
give him a jersey.
These 9 performances by Erick Fedde, yes, it'll be great if he was traded and get great value from the players coming back. But now give me pause. Is like, man, is he good? Is he really good?
But what is Erick Fedde's ceiling?
That's what I'm saying.
It's not this. It's not like Erick Fedde's going to go out there and be like the new Max Scherzer because, like you said, he's not throwing 100. He's not getting the whiffs that are necessary to be a dominant starter.
Correct.
He's a guy that can avoid hard contact, but that also doesn't mean that you're going to avoid 17 pitch innings, 16 pitch innings, 20 pitch innings because guys are able to fall off, and they had 18 foul offs. Some of those have to be put in play, or some of those have to be converted into outs. I just don't think he has that true put away stuff. I think he's a really reliable 3rd to 4th starter. And we know with all of the injuries that have happened around Major League Baseball, that's extremely valuable. Yes. So I think there's value in Erick Fedde and maybe more value than we thought. And I think too, we said it when they signed him at $7.5 million. I thought Fedde would get more, and I thought that there would be more of a
bidding war, right?
Bidding war,
just them and the
market,
Mets, right?
Right.
And the White Sox bid more than the Mets.
The White Sox jumped the market because they weren't going for Imanaga or Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, right, or Yamamoto. They went to their guy. They had a target. They went out and signed him and said, "Hey, we're going to let you start as many games as you want to with our team." And they were able to secure it. And it was a fantastic start. Christian's saying a good Kyle Hendricks. Then Kyle Hendricks was elite though.
Yeah,
Kyle Hendricks has like elite control. Erick Fedde's a very average to maybe above average starter. He's a 3 to 4 starter. Like he's a guy that I don't think you love to start in a World Series, game 4, but if you have to, you get 5 innings, right? Like I think that he's not. If you look at the 2005 rotation, because we always love to look back in time, right? Like he's a Javi Vasquez maybe.
Ooh, he wasn't on that team, but yes.
Oh, right. Okay. Well then.
But no, I
take away my White Sox fan card for not getting the 2005 White Sox rotation right.
No, I'm just saying Javi Vasquez is a bad memory for me. In the 2008 playoffs, he was not good versus the Tampa Bay Rays. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like he's not a ace. And you don't want him to be your number 1 coming out of the gate. And these teams acquiring him, if they were to trade for him, will be getting him for a number 2 or a 3 on those teams, because these teams will be having much better starters than Erick Fedde. But for what he's done with these White Sox, these 9 games, yeah, I give pause. Kevin, you're asking if you keep pitching like this, you flip him. I give pause to it, like knowing that he's still signed for next year and you can do this in the offseason or next year. But what really do you get from Erick Fedde on a bad team next year? Like you'll probably get more this year at the trade deadline because of the year and a half of control than you would in the offseason and or if you were to wait until next year at the trade deadline. So I'm about getting this team as good as it can be, the quickest it can be, and Erick Fedde being this good right now will have a market. Some people are probably calling the White Sox currently to see if there's a market for him and what they can be doing for it. But I guarantee Chris Getz going to wait until probably last couple days of that trade deadline and say, okay, who wants to bid? Who's giving me the players I want? And when they give them the players that they want, Erick Fedde's gone. Good as gone. He should be.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Because, the biggest thing about the White Sox right now in their farm system is they have a ton of pitching. So you have the guys to replace him as well if you're expecting to move on from, Fedde, Clevenger, and who else is in the line? Maybe Flexen? Flexen wasn't that bad today.
Put bum-ass Brad Keller in the bullpen, on the rotation.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but I don't know.
He'll be more DFA than picked up by somebody else.
Keller or Soroka will get something. But they have the ability to replace him with Cannon, Nastrini. Eaters look good. Bushes look good. Iriarte just struck out 11. Maybe Drew Thorpe. There's 5 guys right there.
Yep.
I think the White Sox could easily replace trading away some of these guys. And his value is never going to be higher for the White Sox. Sure, maybe they do re-sign Erick Fedde, but he'll be 33. Like, I don't really want to buy in at a 33-year-old. Trade him when he's 31 and you have a year of control. That's going to be when he's most valuable. So 100%, if you could find anyone of value on this team, if you're thinking about trading Luis Robert Jr. and Garrett Crochet, you should for sure be trading Erick Fedde. I mean, it's not even a question. Garrett Crochet has 2 years of control, and Erick Fedde has 1 year of control. Garrett Crochet is your former first rounder, and he's 25, and Erick Fedde's 31. Like, absolutely 100%, you trade Erick Fedde in July, and I think, again, because he'll have a pretty good market. I don't know if Minnie Dar is right, and you can get Fedde for Spencer Jones. But hey, I'd call Brian Cashman and say,
prospect hugging.
Yeah, right?
I bet you they're pissed. Even though they're doing well, they're pissed they didn't get Cease. They could have just gave us Spencer Jones. We've been in the house right now.
They could have.
Dummies.
I'm looking at the 2005 rotation. Maybe John Garland was too old. He's 25. Like, maybe he's Jose Contreras. But Jose had like a decent amount of walks, like 3.3 walks per 9.
Jose during that,
he's like if John Garland was Jose Contreras' age.
Yes, that's a good comparison. Jose Contreras during that time, at the end of 2005 into the middle of 2006, there was not a better pitcher in baseball at that time. But if you've seen, he pretty much steeply fell off the cliff because he was older. He was a little longer in the tooth. Now, Eric is not that old, but it's bad business to give money to a person that's going to be 33 on the other side of that contract. So I get what people are saying, and I hear you guys. Like, I am thinking about, maybe, possibly, but when are the White Sox going to be good? 4 years from now? When he'll be 35?
Yeah, and that's 2 years away from when you even have control.
Yeah, and you will have to give him probably real money because the 7.5 won't work for this year and next year. After that year, if he does the same thing, it's going to go up to $20 million per.
Also, don't worry, White Sox Tom. He says we need someone to make the All-Star team. All-Star game happens before the trade deadline. Yeah. So Erick Fedde could put on the little hat, put on the little jersey, take the little smiling photo, be in the lineup, be the only White Sox called. Maybe Jordan Leasure gets a call, and he'll get traded after that. Yeah. So there you go. Hit that thumbs up button. We got Stephen Gautrett to remind you. Don't forget to drop a like on the stream. He's participating.
He is participating.
All right. So you got one of them?
I got the first game where I selected Aloy because he hit the home run, had 4 total bases, more than anybody else. No one selected Andy Vaughn in the second game because he's been having a shite year, but it looks like Andy Vaughn might be coming out.
Hey, we'll talk about it after the break. Let's talk about our friends over at Game Time, and we'll also let you know about our friends over at Circa Sportsbook. Herb, what's that Game Time guarantee?
Before I get to the Game Time, Tom, we're not comparing Erick Fedde to Roger fucking Clemens. Sorry for swearing. Please stop it. And that man was doing extra stuff. So
he doesn't mean Cody Clemens?
Please stop. No. Oh. But Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. And Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater, events that are near you. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. The Cubs are over there in Studio A right now talking about how they lost to the Atlanta Braves. I went down to Atlanta a couple of years ago and watched a beautiful game in their beautiful stadium. Went to Game Time, bought tickets there, and then checked out all the secondary markets to see if there's a lower price in one of those secondary marketplaces. There was. And the row in the section that I was sitting in, I sent this information to Game Time, and within 12 minutes, I got 110% of the difference into my Game Time account. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the views from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. I just went to Wrigley last week to see the Padres. You need to see that because there's obstructed views everywhere in Wrigley Field or in all old ballparks like Fenway Park. So use Game Time because they have all-in prices that show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without any of the hidden fees. And at Game Time, they're obsessed with finding you ways to find money-saving deals on tickets. Game Time is deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after that event starts. It's the place to go to find last-minute tickets. And with zone deals like I got in Milwaukee, you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for a savings of an average of 18%. And at Game Time Guarantee, like I just told you about Atlanta, you get a price on another secondary marketplace with the same row and the same section. Send that information to Game Time. You'll get 110% of the difference in your account. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Thank you, Herb. And we also want to let you know about our friends over at Circa Sportsbook. It is a beautiful place that you can go visit out in Las Vegas, the Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. I was there. I had one of the best days of my life. I was just had my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I got to watch baseball from about 4 p.m. to, I think, midnight just gamble on every single game. There was nothing better. And the best part about Circa is I basically get that sportsbook in my pocket when I download the Circa Sports Illinois app. Head over to circasports.com/Illinois-app. The people that run that beautiful Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas run the Circa Sports sportsbook app, and there are real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issue in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. There will be no calling of an 800 number, pressing 1 to get a call back, and then getting put into a 14-person queue to wait about 25 minutes to, not actually be helped. Circa is going to take care of you, and they also don't limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. So if you're feeling good about Erick Fedde, or if you're feeling good about the White Sox, head over to Circa Sportsbook and check out their lines. They're always trying to make it the most favorable for you, the sports better. Also, they'll be hanging out with us on Cubs Friday 120 Club. I know that this is a White Sox show, but we appreciate the support for CHGO. And also, hey, it's baseball on a Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you watched a Cubs game at 1:20 because you're a Padres fan, and then you watched a White Sox game at 6:40.
Great times.
So there you go.
Baseball is great. And so it's the greatest city in the world because we have 2 baseball teams.
Amen. Do the Red Line Classic. If you or somebody you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. Text GMB to 833-234. Visit AreYouReallyWinning.com. Let's head out to Guaranteed Rate Field and talk to Vinne Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. He does have a piece that was published earlier today about Michael Soroka's move to the bullpen. We will talk to Vinny about that later and the corresponding Brad Keller move. But we just left off talking about Erick Fedde. He's our headline player. So why don't we talk to Vinny about Erick Fedde? Was Erick Fedde foaming at the mouth because he just had revenge against his former team, the Washington Nationals, or was it measured like a normal person?
It was measured like a normal person. I think you have done your best to drum up Erick Fedde revenge fever, but no one seems to be afflicted with that except you, Sean. So nice try, but I think everybody else took the vaccine.
They did a good job in the 60s with the vaccine, was what I was going to say. So I'm glad that the fever has not been spread.
No, he was asked about it, and I think he said, that he was trying not to think about it throughout the week, right? I mean, it's kind of something that is very natural. Oh, hey, look, it's that place, or it's that team that I pitched for my entire career before last year. I'm sure that there was something when he saw those hats and those jerseys. Although, can I say, what's up with the Nats jerseys this year? The road.
Oh, yes.
They changed the font. It's like a block lettering now instead of the cursive. I don't like it. But anyway, that's here nor there. Erick Fedde had nothing to say about the Nats jerseys and everything to say about how happy he was with being able to kind of bounce back. He said his control was bad tonight. He said that he wasn't happy with how he was getting into some unfavorable counts, but how happy he was with being able to get out of it. This is a guy who is not just a one-pitch pitcher, a two-pitch pitcher, but a lot of pitch pitcher, and he has been able to kind of use all of those pitches effectively to do just that, to kind of keep hitters off balance, to not know what's coming at them. And so even when he gets down into a 2-0 or a 3-0 count, he can still find a way to end up with the upper hand or find a way to get out of it with that great ground ball rate that he had last year in Korea. The strikeouts have been there kind of for Erick Fedde. I think he's got, 13 of them in his last 2 starts. But, man, the number that really jumps off the page is the no walks. And he's really just limiting base runners, limiting opportunities. And, you look at the scorecard. I was looking at my scorecard tonight, and I'm like, man, there's hardly anybody on base. There, you know what I mean? Like there's not really anything the Nationals even threatened him with at any point. So a just tremendous performance by Erick Fedde, whose ERA is down to 2.60 on the season now. He is the White Sox. I think a couple weeks ago you asked who's the leader in the clubhouse to be the All-Star, and I was saying Crochet pretty definitively because of the high strikeout numbers. And don't get me wrong, Garrett Crochet is still pitching very, very well. But man, Erick Fedde is delivering consistency. It seems every time out he's going to go and give them 6-7 innings at this point. And that's really impressive for a guy who we had no idea what he was going to be able to do when the season started, whether that success from the KBO was going to transfer over to the major leagues, where the last time he pitched here in a Nationals uniform, in a much better looking Nationals uniform, he was nowhere. He was not only nowhere near as effective, he was just an entirely different pitcher. And he even alluded to that tonight, that to be able to get out of this, to get out of those individual at bats where he feels they don't start very well, is the mark of him becoming the brand new pitcher that he is today.
Yeah, and before Herb follows up with a question, he fell behind 12 different batters. So, I mean, it's good to hear, at least, again, the measured take from Erick Fedde. He didn't have the control and at least wasn't perfect out there. It was fun to watch him. I thought that maybe he'd be telling Pedro, hey, I got more in me. I'm only at 99 pitches. His career high is 115. Was there any talk of that? I know we once saw Pedro leave Erick Fedde to try to chase that first career complete game shutout. There was no talk of that. It was 7 innings for Fedde tonight for sure.
Yeah, it sure seemed that way. I think with Pedro being able to save both Leasure and Kopech, for that second game after they didn't pitch in the first game because of when that lead was given up in game 1 today, he probably knew, hey, if we've got a lead late, or if we've got a savable lead late, we'll put it that way, he's going to put in the 2 guys at the back end of his bullpen. So I think it was a big deal for Erick Fedde to complete 7 innings. You know what I mean? I understand folks want to see the ball keep rolling and see the train keep rolling down the track, but to give them 7 innings on a day when they played 2 games and you had to use a lot of bullpen pitchers, that's a big deal.
On a day where Erick Fedde dominated, I want to focus more on what the offense did, and that offense in the second game was Andrew Vaughn. The first game, he had 2 loud outs, both 101 miles per hour. So I mentioned that to Sean. I'm like, hey, man, just because he hits those balls hard and they're out, eventually they'll be going over the fence or dropping in. Today, mercy. Went down and got that splitter and crushed it to right center, and then didn't leave anything to chance. I think the actual best at bat he had was the one, I forgot which inning it was, Sean, where he drew the walk eventually. He had a 3-1 count. He let the barrel go and tried to hit that ball down the left field line. It went foul and then eventually drew the walk. But what Andrew Vaughn had to say about his day and how he's coming out of that slump that he's been in pretty much season-wide.
6th inning walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Vaughn, I don't know how familiar folks are with him in his interviews and his interactions with us, but, very even-keeled. I mean, this is a guy who you wouldn't know whether he went through that horrible April or he hit 2 home runs. I mean, we basically have had the same interview with him, content different, obviously, but the same, emotion with him, both in the early going this season and tonight. But basically what he said in terms of turning things around for him, he said he went back to his roots. And I asked him what that meant. And he said, keep it simple, stupid. And he basically, it seemed like he was just thinking a little too much. And, it's funny. We think, about guys, they need to make a fix. They need to make an adjustment. Sometimes the adjustment you need to make is to stop trying to make adjustments, right? And it seems like that might have been the story for Andrew Vaughn. But listen, we heard from Pedro and his teammates throughout his really horrible slump to start the season. Hey, don't worry. He'll come around. He's Andrew Vaughn. He'll come around. He'll come around. And what have we seen? Kind of a slow move up, right? With kind of the slow, he starts hitting the ball hard, even if it's going right at guys. Then he starts finding some hits. Now he's starting to get some homers. He kind of all of a sudden has come out of it, but it has been, step by step. And I think for him, it was kind of cooling down whatever was going on up here and kind of getting back to normal. Or his normal rather, and just try to play baseball. And I think the way that Pedro has put it is kind of screw it, or the hell with it, kind of just who cares what the result's going to be. I'm just going to do things the way I'm used to doing them, and it is paying off. It paid off tonight, and it sure seems like Andrew Vaughn is looking a lot different and certainly having more success than he was those first few weeks of the year.
Vaughn in game 2, fly out in the first inning, 96.5 miles per hour on the exit velocity. On the first home run, 102.6 miles per hour. And on the second home run, 103.1 miles per hour. So, hit ball hard, good. Ball in air,
great.
Team go far,
yeah.
As Rick Hahn once told us. And Alejandro's been on fire today. He's saying in the chat, Fedde, not petty. I'm surprised you didn't roll off with that, Vinny. I'm honestly surprised you had nothing for me that was punny with Erick Fedde not being petty towards the Nationals. So good job there, Alejandro. All right.
Wow, guys, Sean, you're gonna say the word petty. Don't do me like that. How about?
Oh, nice.
I wish we could play this back and forth, and I could ping pong, but I don't have a Tom Petty reference for you. So my bad.
Running Down a Dream, is that a song?
Yeah, but you just said the title of a song. You didn't say
I know.
I don't know. I guess I'm free falling here. There you go.
Or Herb was.
Or Herb was free falling.
That's the only Tom Petty song I know.
Don't do me like that, Vinny, and leave me out to dry. Oh, I just stole yours. Okay. So did Pedro bring up playing fast at all? I know there were several opportunities with both game 1 and game 2. And also shout out to referee 583. That Navy hat you're wearing tonight. Go White Sox. Oh, you're
mine?
Yeah, that's a Milwaukee hat.
Oh, it's a Brewers hat. Yeah. I got it up in the good land.
Go Brewers. Was there any mentioning of playing fast? We liked Brian Ramos's aggressive play in the 5th inning of Game 1, but then obviously we knew that he was taken out of this game later on because of quad stiffness. And then also Rafi Ortega. He didn't have to hustle home because Andrew Vaughn drove him in with the home run, but Rafi Ortega getting his first White Sox hit on a bunt. And then I think he had, I don't know if he was credited, but in a way, 3 stolen bases. So some fast play for the White Sox?
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't really get pointed out as like, hey, there's an example of that thing that I said in the spring training. But I think it's more of a season-long expectation. And so when things do go well in that realm, they're complimented. When things don't, they are not. And certainly Pedro talked about in Game 1 how there were some fundamental mistakes that he wasn't happy with, that he wants to see cleaned up. And he even said earlier in this homestand, I mean, I asked kind of about the style of play, and he said, well, yeah, we've been aggressive and we've been fearless, and that's good. But man, the technically sound part could use some improvement, and he's right. We still see this team make some mistakes, and in fact Pedro said that aggressive play by Brian Ramos was in fact a mistake. He was supposed to do a hit and run there. He missed the sign, did Brian Ramos, and so when he's going first to third, we're sitting there watching him thinking, wow, look at how aggressive he's being, kind of thing, and he ends up making it to third. But what was supposed to happen was he was supposed to be at third by much more than he was, according to Pedro. He said that, had he picked up the sign and done what he was supposed to do, it wouldn't have been as close of a play. Also, Ramos got hurt on that play. So, potentially a bit of an injury stemming from that, let's call it inability to be technically sound in that one instance. So it's a mixed bag, I think. I don't think anybody's super thrilled with a team that's this far below 500, doing everything right. I mean, like it's not just like, well, they're playing the exact way they're supposed to, they're just losing. Like they're losing because they're not playing that way all the time. Certainly there are some good examples of it. You brought them up. Rafi Ortega getting that bunt hit is a great example of it, right? And hey, how about the diving play at the end of the game by your boy Andrew Benintendi in an inning where Michael Kopech was very shaky. So, there's some good examples, but there continue to be examples of them not doing it either. And I think, hearing from Pedro about Brian Ramos today was kind of an example of both how you're supposed to and how you're not supposed to play.
And I get what Pedro's doing. And if you miss a sign, you miss a sign. And that's bad for Brian Ramos to do that. But you guys didn't ask him about that. Like, he volunteered that information to you guys just to throw a kid under the bus. He could, punish this kid and say, hey, man, you miss a sign, you're going to be doing this, that, and the other. But he's got to read the room. This kid's got all the energy. That play that itself brought a lot of energy into the game. And what he did in that game was pretty good. And so to kind of poo-poo that and say he made a mistake and volunteer that, it sits wrong with me because it's another rookie getting scolded by Pedro. And you see in the first game, Gavin Sheets airmails the cutoff guy again. I don't hear anything about Gavin Sheets. I didn't hear anything about Andrew Benintendi. Did he?
He mentioned that particular play, yes.
Okay, because it's just going after this youngster, like, I don't like it too tough. Like, if you guys didn't ask it, there's no reason for it to be public. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's noticeable, right? And I think I said that all year long when we had this similar conversation about what Pedro would say about Oscar Colas, right? I mean, it's like I don't necessarily see anything wrong with pointing out a mistake. I think there's a lot of people who, I mean, you just literally brought it up, Herb, that like you want to hear him talk about a mistake made by any number of other players, right? And so I think the thing that stands out is the lack of consistency there, I guess, or his not abiding almost by his own rules, because he talks so much about how he's not going to share certain things about, the conversations he's having with players in a media setting, right? So I mean, like last year when we would ask him about defensive mistakes that, for example, Tim Anderson made, right? His response was always like, we're having those conversations, but I'm not going to tell you what I said to him right now, kind of thing. Okay, if that's what you wanted, if that's the way you're laying it down, that's fine. But then when you do point it out with other players, or in other specific instances, you're like, oh, why is that being talked about here, but certain other things aren't? So I think that the lack of consistency there does stand out. It can't avoid standing out. I think that, though, folks who are complaining about this should think about what they want. Do you want a manager who talks about all the mistakes that they want to fix, regardless who the player is? Or do you want a manager who doesn't talk about any of them, regardless of who the player is? Because I think I saw a ton of complaints tonight. Oh, there he is, throwing Ramos under the bus, Then you better be the same person who's not complaining when he doesn't say Tim Anderson made a mistake, or this year Paul DeJong made a mistake at shortstop, kind of thing. I would just advise people to figure out what you want, because you can't have it both ways.
I guess just figuring out this situation. Was it truly a quad stiffness and him getting hurt on that play, or do you think it was punitive? You missed this sign, and we're going to remove you from the game? Because it was an inning after that play. You'd think if it was punitive, it would have happened in the moment he made the mistake, right?
Right. He stayed in the game a whole extra inning. I believe that play happened in the 5th inning, and Ramos didn't come out until the 7th. We asked Pedro about that, and he was like, yeah, he stayed in, but it was still acting up on him. After the game, the update is they're almost certainly going to give him the day off tomorrow, and then they have the off day on Thursday, with the hope that 2 full days will make it go away by the time they get to New York on Friday.
We hope so. He's been fun to watch. We're going to take a break, and we're going to let you know about our friends over at Ray, CDJR, and Salerno's Pizza. Herb, people over at Salerno's have a pretty good deal.
Oh, my goodness. You need to stop on by to Salerno's on tap, located at 1201 West Grand Avenue in Chicago's West Town, and enjoy our tavern-style pizza and ice-cold beers. Whether you're headed to the game, want to watch it live on their big screen TVs, or watch it from home, they got you covered. Go to salernospizza.com or call 312-666-3444. Mention CHGO and get half off your pizza. Half off the price. Not half off the pizza, but half off the price of that pizza.
I can't do the Big Dave thing.
Yeah. Half, Eddie. Half. Head on down to salernospizza.com or call 312-666-3444 for more information. Mention CHGO and get half off your pizza.
We also want to let you know about our friends over at Ray CDJR. This May, our #1 draft pick for all things Chrysler, Dodge, Jeeps, and Rams have got to be Ray CDJR in Fox Lake. And right now, it is the season, which means not only is May the time to find your next vehicle, you can also score huge savings too. For a limited time, lease the new 2024 Ram 1500 Big Horn Crew Cab for only $419 a month, or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you land the perfect vehicle at the perfect price, because with Ray's price promise, the numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you can expect when you shop in-store and online. That's because the Ray's price promise means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hitting fees. So if you are in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, because they are the only team we recommend. They have great savings going on in the month of May. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. Check out that Ray's price promise. And for more information, you could visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com, serving the community since 1963. All right. I think there's a lot to talk about in this game. Before we get into the bigger picture White Sox stuff, we got through the Ramos stuff. Let's talk about Michael Kopech. That was a rocky outing for Kopech. Was it just mainly some goofy stuff? Because we laughed at the first strikeout that he had of Rosario, where Rosario, the second it leaves Kopech's hand, bails out of the batter's box and either says, this is a walk or I'm taking a strikeout. And Herb even noticed Kopech stared at Rosario as he's walking off to the dugout and even gave him a flick. And how does he follow this up with this 100-mile-per-hour strikeout of Eddie Rosario? 4 straight balls. What is going on with Michael Kopech? Is it all in his head? Because we also saw him get caught up in the dirt as well. I don't know if this was just maybe a little bit of jitters for Kopech. Did he talk after the game, or did Grifol talk specifically about what was going on with Kopech?
Yeah, Michael, we didn't hear from Michael, but we did hear from Pedro about it. And Pedro's theory was that he hadn't pitched in a bit. And I think it had been 4 straight games in which he didn't pitch before 4 straight days rather, in which he didn't pitch before today, and that he was just a little too fired up. And I guess that's an explanation for him throwing the ball all over the place, because the command was just everywhere tonight, and he had that one wild pitch late that was 2 feet over Martin Maldonado's head. It was ugly, and then but I think the other 2 things were just kind of fluke things, right? Because the Rosario bat, who knows? I don't know what Rosario was doing. The only theories we could come up with were either he tried to call timeout and thought that he did and left the box, but he was not granted it, or my best guess was he's seeing Kopech, miss all over the place. He's just gonna put all his chips on ball 4. But that's weird, right? He's a veteran. He should know that that Kopech's capable of throwing a strike. So who knows what happened there. The other thing was, again, I think a total fluke thing with the slipping on the mound. That was very strange. Pedro, I think, made mention, though, he'd rather just hold on to the ball and take the ball rather than have it be a wild pitch in which a guy gets to advance a base. So, it was a weird inning. I think Maldonado and Katz probably did a good job at calming him down as best they could, or at least getting him to throw differently. It was rocky is a good adjective there, Sean, because it was all over the place.
And let's go back to game 1, where the White Sox are still having trouble holding runners on. And I know the Nationals are second in the league in stolen bases, but there was one stolen base by Lipscomb where he literally took off and had like a 10 to 12 foot lead on running to second, and there wasn't a throw that could throw him out. Not the fastest throw in the world could throw him out. Like, what are the White Sox doing about, like, we keep on hearing, like, we're working on it. But every time, and every team that comes into town is like, let's eat.
Well, and I just want to add on, too, Steve Stone literally said on that play, in the scouting report, the White Sox pitchers don't look back a second time.
Yeah.
Like that's what Steve Stone said. I was just quoting him.
Yeah, Steve's usually right. So, listen, they're not doing a good job of it. They haven't done a good job of it all year. They didn't do a very good job of it last year. It is something that they do not do well, and I think that it does frustrate this coaching staff, because I think I saw Pedro frustrated about it after the games, talking about how they had to do a better job. Chris Flexen, you saw, ended up, I guess, breaking the throw over rule. He threw the maximum number of times. They didn't get the guy that they thought that they were trying to get at first base, and so he automatically gets to go to second. Now, again, that's Flexen. Pedro said it was Flexen doing it on his own to make the decision to throw over a third time, and that's an okay risk to take, right? Because you think you can get the guy. Like the idea of the rule was, we're going to try to stop it so people are just throwing it over there to waste time, or just to because they don't want to throw a pitch or something like that. Not because they don't want people to try to actually make a play at first base. And so I think you'd take that if you're a team. It just didn't work out for Chris Flexen in this instance. But you're right. They get run all over all the time. You mentioned a huge lead on a steal of second base. I believe there was a steal of third base in which there was no throw at all. They're just not good at it. And when they run up against teams who are good at stealing bases on top of it, you know what I mean? It gets compounded, and you see things like you saw in that game. So, I'm sure they are working on it, but it ain't working because this continues to be a problem. And I think the weird thing is, you maybe would think that it was the individual pitchers. Obviously, there were guys who last year we saw have more trouble than others, right? Kopech was one of them. Mike Clevenger stood out as a guy who was having trouble keeping runners on. But they've changed over the entire starting rotation for the most part, except Clevenger, who's still there, or who's back again. So that it is continued from year to year with completely new pitchers, completely new catchers. It's odd, but yeah, they're not very good at it, are they?
No, they are not. They're very, very bad at it, and I think the Nationals will likely run on them tomorrow if they get the chance to. All right, let's get into your piece up at allchgo.com. You could read about the White Sox rotation changes and how Michael Soroka, who the hell is that? Michael Soroka will be headed to the bullpen for Brad Keller. Vinny, am I right that it's going to be Crochet on Wednesday, Clevenger on Friday, Saturday will now be Keller, and then Sunday will be our man Chris Flexen. Do you want to talk about those changes and what the White Sox rotation will look like now?
Yeah, you hit it. Basically, they're just going to swap out Soroka for Brad Keller. Obviously Pedro has that history in Kansas City. When Keller was there, he has a lot of confidence in Brad Keller to be able to do that. But I think the bigger story here is Soroka. This is a guy who was probably viewed as, whether he was or not, he was viewed as the headline piece probably in that Aaron Bummer trade, in which Chris turns one player into five and has all these options, be they long-term potential or just to do something this year and turn into something, right? I mean, here's the thing: what is the best case scenario in the preseason of the White Sox getting Michael Soroka back into the form that he was in 2019? It's to turn him into something at the trade deadline, right? I mean, he's a free agent after this year. We've talked about that so much over the last few weeks with so many different guys on this team. Soroka fell into that bucket, and that part of it's not working. You saw them turn Robbie Grossman into something, right? And we keep talking about how, they're going to have all these guys that they can trade at the trade deadline and get a bunch of, Herb, to use a term you use all the time, lottery ticket prospects to try and make something for this rebuild project that they're doing. But as I've pointed out, that hinges on these players being good enough to be wanted by other teams. And I don't think Michael Soroka is doing well enough to be wanted by other teams right now. Putting him in the bullpen might be a way to just jumpstart things because, as Pedro pointed out today, it's basically exactly what they did with Chris Flexen, who up until today, his last 5 outings were fantastic. He had a 1.5 ERA over his last 5 outings coming into today. Obviously, today in Game 1, things didn't go so well, and so that number is up now. But they put him into the bullpen, and something clicked for him because in his first 3 starts of the year, he was horrendous, and then something clicked for him. So maybe it's a mental thing, a competition thing. But Michael Soroka has not been happy with his results this year. He has not pitched very long in games this year. I think the majority of his starts have been 80 pitches or fewer. This is a guy who wants to be that workhorse, and he hasn't been that. On top of them, the results not being good. I mean, coming into today, guys, he led baseball in home runs allowed, and he led the American League in earned runs allowed. I mean, he's not good. And so they're going to move him to the bullpen to try to keep him stretched out. You're going to see him used in long appearances, just like Brad Keller has been, like Jared Schuster has been. But I think right now this experiment, while not over, because Pedro said it's not, this is not a permanent, move if he can show that he deserves to come back into the rotation. But I don't think it's going anywhere close to what anybody wanted it, the way anybody wanted it to go. And you're already seeing a rotation in mid-May that doesn't include one of the, I guess, top guys that you acquired during the offseason to fill one of these spots.
Right, and just to add on to that, the reason why he was a part of that Braves package and why a lot of those guys was because they were either out of options and they weren't just a appealing 40-man options. So just with Soroka getting demoted from the rotation, the bullpen is his last option with the White Sox, because if they try to move him to AAA, he'll have to be placed on waivers, and it's just kind of the end of the story there, and then he'll have to be re-added and all that, mumbo jumbo, or they'll have to trade him and get him, cash considerations for him, but cash considerations is different than a lottery ticket. So, just unfortunate for Soroka.
And in that first game, we saw Chris Flexen pretty much do well with his first 4 innings, and then that 5th inning is a thing for him. Like, what did Pedro say about, did he just run out of gas in that 5th inning? Because he only had 86 pitches, even though he did give up those 3 earned runs.
Yeah, I think it's more so that the game kind of got out of his hand. I mean, he put guys on base and gave up runs. I mean, they were hitting him. It's not necessarily that I think it was a pitch count issue. It's just that all of a sudden he couldn't keep him in there, or the game was going to get out of hand the way that inning was going. So, I mean, that's happened with a lot of White Sox pitchers this year in a lot of different games. It's happened to Michael Soroka a lot. It's happened to Chris Flexen a few times. Heck, it's happened to Garrett Crochet and Erick Fedde too. So that's baseball sometimes, but you know, and it wasn't even enough to lose the White Sox the game. They came back in the bottom of that inning and tied it right back up. So I think the idea there is Pedro keeping that game close, keeping it at hand, and that's exactly what happened because it was tied by the end of that inning. So it just wasn't a game that where the results were as good as they have been for Chris Flexen, but it's going to take a lot more than that to knock him out of the rotation again, if that's even something the White Sox are thinking of. But it kind of seems like there's a few revolving spots now here, doesn't it? I mean, we saw Flexen move to the bullpen, and then he sat out of it sat out of the rotation for a bit, but then went back in. You've got Jared Schuster up here making long relief roles. You have Brad Keller now being put into the rotation after making just that one start down in St. Louis. Now you've got Soroka going to the bullpen, but could he come back if Flexen struggles? Like, it almost seems like those aren't these like set positions, not because they haven't tried them to be or they haven't wanted them to be, but if the pitchers are going to continue to perform inconsistently, they've got to try to throw somebody out there who they think can give them the best start on any given day. And that seems the definition of who those people are, past, of course, Crochet, Fedde, and I guess Mike Clevenger, seems to be constantly changing.
Right, and two, I mean, we saw Fedde be down about a mile per hour on each of his 5 pitches. So, you know, if he starts to lose some of that velocity, maybe Soroka starts to gain it, and they're like, hey, Soroka, we'll put you back in the rotation, and we'll put Flexen back in the bullpen just to get his mile per hour back up. And maybe this is just a whole saga of the White Sox rotation and pitching infrastructure. So there you go. One more thing for Vinny.
Starting pitching innings. Remember that phrase?
Yes. Yeah, it's tattooed on my body. It's a recent addition to me. Anyways, that's Vinne Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. He loves the White Sox so much that not only did he spend 10 hours at the ballpark today, he's going to be there bright and early for a game tomorrow. Was it 10?
About. Let's call it 9.5.
All right, well, I like to round up. Let's call it 10.
Sure.
CHGO White Sox beat writer Vinne Duber. You can follow him at Vinne Duber. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. Thank you for hanging out with us in the chat, and make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button and subscribe button. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at Ectorwall23 as our CHGO White Sox community leader. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. I'm Sean Anderson. We will talk to you tomorrow for the recap of the Nationals and White Sox series. Garrett Crochet versus the guy Patrick Corbin. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.